All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Yes, the start of a new week. And I know you all start the new week the way I do, cleaning up cat pee. Am I right, everybody? That is really my, that's how I begin most days, with the cat pee cleanup. Sometimes it's cat pee and other stuff, and most of the time it's just the pee. I have elderly cats. And someday I will be an elderly cat, and someone will need to clean up after me, and that's why I do it proudly. That's right. Yes. Glad you could be here. We are a live show. We come to you more or less from 2 p.m.-ish to 4 p.m.-ish on the East Coast, and it's 11 to 1. Our friends in the West and everywhere in between, you are welcome. And, of course, all across the world, I've gotten emails from as far away as New Zealand and Taiwan. Very cool to have everybody on board. So today, it's a very special show. And in addition to a lot of the stuff that we will talk about, including the latest rantings and the latest flexes of the new president, Donald Trump. He's been in office about 2 months now. David Pakman joins us today, and I'm a huge David Pakman fan, as I think everybody on the show falls into that category. And I'm super excited about him joining us. Kim reached out to him. Now, Kim gets full credit for this one.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
There's a possibility that maybe today, if only for a day, I could be your favorite McAllister.
Oh, interesting. You do move up. This is considerable. You do get major points for this.
But not favorite? Not your favorite.
It's close, Kim. I mean, it's very, very close. But it's not typically close.
Who do I have to book to be your favorite? That's
no, it's not typically close. I mean, this may be the booking.
I blame you.
All right. Anyway, I'm very excited about David Pakman being here in the second hour. He has a new book, and I'm excited to talk to him about everything that's going on in this country and beyond, as the world shakes like a snow globe and all of the pieces fall in places we really haven't seen, nor did we think we'd see. So that in the second hour today. Hello from San Jose, California. Happy St. Patrick's Day, says Anna Marie Matthews Hussey. Yes, San Jose. Love it. I remember when San Jose was a sleepy town. No mass transit. Now it's a big city. It's really a bigger city than San Francisco, you know. They call it the San Francisco Bay Area, but the truth is I'd suggest that the center of gravity may be more in San Jose than really in San Francisco.
I know.
Yes. A lot of people with the St. Patty's Day greetings. Who's Mark Thompson? Says Rick. Exactly. By the way, before I get into the show, and so excited that Tony is with us today.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. Mark's Madness, the play-in is today, I believe. I can't even, the commissioner of Mark's Madness is Albert. He's coming in at the end of the show, and he will set us all straight. But there's not going to be any voting in the chat, so it doesn't really matter. We do a play-in. If those of you who are new, I'll just quickly, in 60 seconds or less, explain this. We have drops, audio drops on the show, and those drops play off against each other like the NCAA tournament. We call it Mark's Madness instead of March Madness. So you just vote for what drop should beat the other drop. So we have drops like we
could try ignoring it, sir.
Sure, that's actually in the tournament. We could try ignoring it. And then
there's a reason that this place is fun.
So those two would play off against each other. Now, I think it is two Trump drops that play off against each other today. You'll find the voting in the posts. Used to be community, now it is posts. Some of you knew this and mentioned this the other day. posts part of our channel. So if you subscribe to our channel, you go to posts, you'll see which drops are playing off against each other. And we put a video out over the weekend telling you what all of the drops are, because they're just labeled sort of in a shorthand. So if you go to our channel, you'll see that video that we put out over the weekend, and March Madness actually begins on Wednesday. So you'll have all day tomorrow, Tuesday, to fill out your bracket, and most of Wednesday morning. And then when the show goes on Wednesday, of course, things are locked down. But we don't have the bracket set up. That's why there is no link to any website yet, nothing yet, okay? The commissioner will come on, he'll explain more, but that's where we are. So I think that was more than 60 seconds, by the way. I said I would do it in 60 seconds or less. So sorry about that.
I blame you.
Yeah, it's a problem. So that is the situation on March Madness. And as I say, Albert will be along a little bit later to explain. And it's not basketball. No, it is. This is our answer to the basketball tourney. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
It'll become clearer as time goes on. I always like to, if possible, and I know there's a tremendous amount going on, and it's desperately urgent also. A lot of what's going on in America right now is desperately urgent. But I still like to try to start our conversation and what we do here with something that's not Trump. I mean, maybe all roads lead back to Trump. I don't know. But I will tell you that this story is not about Trump. It's about a major university that you've always wanted to attend or have your kids attend, but it was just too expensive. I mean, isn't that the thing that was preventing you or your kids from going to Harvard? It was just too expensive.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Now Harvard is eliminating tuition fees for students from families with incomes of $200,000 or less.
What?
Wow.
Yes. They say they want to broaden access to the school at a time when elite universities are under attack from everybody. But the White House, of course, always attacks. They attack the elite universities, yet they all come out of the elite universities. It's so funny to hear people like Josh Hawley, complain about the elites, or Ted Cruz. They all went to Harvard and Yale. But anyway, that's the, nobody looks beyond the curtain, so that's how they can get away with this stuff. But the expansion of financial aid at Harvard, is the oldest and richest U.S. college, means the school is going to be free for families making $100,000 or less, with food and housing also covered.
100,000 or 200,000?
So the school will be free for families making $100,000 or less, with food and housing also covered. Students that meet the $200,000 threshold won't pay tuition, but they'll probably have to pay for room and board, that kind of thing.
Okay. Similar
programs were announced recently at University of Pennsylvania and at MIT, another school that you wanted to attend, but it was just too expensive. I get it.
They did the same thing at USC and Stanford, but I think the threshold was lower.
It's contagious because these are rich institutions. And as I've said before, there is no explanation for why they're as expensive as they are. It is hugely important. And I understand it's a great place where you can both learn and also make contacts. And these alumni networks are so important. And in a sense, that's what you're seeing play out in American life, is the alumni networks at Harvard, MIT, et cetera. But there is no reason, and this goes across the board, other universities and colleges, for the tuitions to be as high as they are. They don't follow any kind of cost of living increases. They far outpace any sort of expense that these learning institutions have. They just keep pushing the limits on these tuitions. So $90,000 a year is the average sticker price to attend many of these elite universities. So
I wonder if they can't be banking on federal funding to make up the difference. So probably the people that make more than 200,000 are going to have to pay a lot more to attend.
Well, I think they just pay this is, without getting too much into the weeds, this is the way these universities work, essentially. They have a huge number. I mentioned 90,000. And a lot of foreign students, for example, have to pay that $90,000. And
Sure.
there are even many students from this country that have to pay the $90,000. But there are so many ways that scholarships and assistance is offered that oftentimes it's not $90,000. But even if it's not $90,000, if it's $60,000, that's still a huge bill. So they don't have to raise it, though, Kim, in response to your comment. You don't have to raise the tuition. This is a sick, wealthy university, Harvard. They have, take a look at their endowment. Google it. It'll astound you. Somebody Google what Harvard's endowment
Google
is. They don't need to raise anything to make up the difference. They are choking on money. And there is, pressure on these universities to not be what they are, which is, crazily expensive. As Kim says, this is something that Harvard's not starting. They are following. It's happening at other universities. But increasingly, that's going to have to be the way to go because they're taking heat. And I wonder with this new administration, how much the feds will be there to really bail them out. So, meaning these are federal dollars they're counting on that they are not receiving. In the case of Columbia, it's a totally different thing, right? They're getting federal dollars, but the feds are saying now, hey, we're not going to give you these dollars unless you clean up your anti-Semitism on campus or what we perceive to be anti-Semitism. Jewish students felt threatened. Some were, physically abused. So it's there's a lot happening at major universities in this country, and it bears attention. Anybody Google the endowment at Harvard?
Yeah, Tony had it up there. $50.7 billion.
Thank you. That's it. $50.7 billion.
Where does money from the endowment come from?
I mean, alums. A lot of it is it's alumni support, and these are rich alums.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's the reason they don't need to worry about making up the difference. Lots of dinero there already. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to get to Richard Greene, the civics dean. He is going to respond to, I think, a kind of growing drumbeat in this country that I'm hearing in political circles to replace Chuck Schumer or to have Chuck Schumer a step down. I will still get to what happened overnight. The sitting president, Donald Trump, he, in a huge flex, seemed to reflect some anger or rage, is saying that the pardons issued by the last president, Joe Biden, are no good. No good because he used an auto pen. I will discuss what that is and what this line of argument is and the absurdity of it a little bit later. Right now, though, I want to get to our distinguished guest, Richard Greene, the civics dean. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy is brilliant when it comes to government and comes to getting votes. He's a political consultant, political advocate, big following on TikTok and social media. He's Richard Greene, the civics dean. Hello, sir.
How you doing, Mark? It's been a while.
Well, it's a crazy, it's been too long. It's a kind of a crazy time in this country's history. And,
we knew this was coming. We warned you. We warned everyone. This is exactly what we talked about.
Yeah, sadly, we did. It's even more reckless than I thought, just because you've started here, and then I'll get to Schumer. Project 2025, they are following a lot of the playbook and the blueprint of Project 2025, but they are doing it far more chaotically in a far less organized fashion than had been advertised or even is set out in Project 2025. The Musk addition, the addition of this guy and his underlings, has completely changed the manner in which they're doing what they're doing, wouldn't you say?
That's because we're not following what's really happening.
Okay, stop for a second. Why is Richard's audio again bad? Tony, I ask you. Can he unclick something? Can you click something?
Can you hear me?
Try now.
I hear you. Go ahead and speak now, please. Yeah. Because what you were saying?
We're only focusing on the flashy, shiny part of the truth that is above the surface. The real agenda, and I've been going down this rabbit hole, which I didn't know about, has to do with J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, a guy named Curtis Yarvin, and something called the Dark Enlightenment, where they literally, all these tech people, they literally believe that democracy is an old-fashioned, outdated, inefficient concept, and that they know better, and they are trying to create an American monarchy with Donald Trump, obviously, for now as the king. And the more destruction they can do, the better. And they want to wipe it all out and create a whole new structure, maybe using AI, but with these genius, arrogant tech billionaire bros running the country. So that combines with Steve Bannon's desire to destroy the that also combines with Project 2025. So all of these anti-democratic, Christo-fascist, crazy things are coming together, and that is the only way to understand what Elon Musk is really doing. So having said that, in steps Chuck Schumer and Brian Schatz and 8 other Democrats, and they go, you know what? We can't shut this government down no matter how bad the bill is. We can't shut it down because that would give them a vacuum within which to operate, and especially it would mean that the money for the courts, which are our only protection at this point, would run out in about 30 days. So Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, Brian Schatz, those 10 Democrats are frickin' heroes.
Sorry about the clicking and the cutting. This is borderline Richard's audio, but I'm kind of staying with this because I think it's understandable. And Tony, you're okay, I think, with staying with it for now? Okay. So because Richard's making such critical points, what is being suggested, though, Richard, is now we hear about the courts, but we really don't know whether that's the case or not. You're saying it would be 30 days and the courts would be essentially unfunded. And as a result, you would have literally no barriers on these guys, basically Musk and Trump and henchmen.
So 2 things. First of all, yesterday I spoke to a top aide at one of these 10 senators' offices, someone I've known for a long time. She told me that they have funding for 30 days. But she told me that it's way worse than that because the Office of Management and Budget, which is run by the guy who proposed Project 2025, would be the office that makes all the decisions about where to allocate these scarce resources that are available under the Anti-Deficiency Act. The government is not allowed to allocate money that Congress has not allocated, right? You can't pay money that Congress hasn't allocated. If the government is shut down, the Congress is not allocating or authorizing, and it's up to Office of Management and Budget, which is Project 2025 people, to decide where that goes. So they could even starve the federal courts even faster. It's like, okay, yeah, they're open, but there's no staffers there. And therefore, constitutionally, you can't actually have trials, which means they can't have the federal judges step in and stop Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
That seemed to be the most compelling argument for why you needed to keep the government open. There wasn't a good choice here. I guess the government staying open also involves funding and defunding programs that Democrats would have nothing to do with. That is, they have nothing to do with funding a lot of these programs that are suggested in the new budget, nor would they have are they cool with defunding it? So that's why many of these programs, and you can start anywhere. You can, the Pentagon budget among the various suggestions here, but essentially you've got the same monies going into the government with this CR as you had last year. Isn't that essentially how it works, Richard Greene?
I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
Meaning the amount of money that is pouring it, because it's a continuing resolution, you're essentially just keeping the government open. You're not. The funding levels would remain for this 6-month period approximately the same. Yeah. Now his cutting out is really bad. What's going on, Tony? Hang on a second, Richard. Hold on. What's going on, Tony? Why can I not hear him cleanly? You have a thought on this?
Richard, are you on an iPhone?
I'm on an Android. Let me log off and let me fix something. Okay. Do I need to get an iPhone?
No, you sound okay right now.
No, you sound okay now. You sound okay. I don't know what you did, but keep doing it. Okay, so yeah, you were just saying. So the government, the continuing resolution, essentially keeps the government open. And from a funding standpoint, just explain to me what happens.
Yeah, I mean, basically, what they're doing is keeping the amount of funding that has been going into the government active for 6 months.
Exactly.
But in order to do that, the Republicans were able to get the Democrats to agree to vote for cloture so they could go ahead and put into law some priorities that were really odious and horrible. But the point I want to share with my fellow Democrats is, we should have fought. We should have fought. What leverage would we have in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 6 months that we don't have now? We'd have none, because you don't have leverage against someone who wants the government to shut down, is actively engaged in shutting down the government in their own way. Where's the leverage? Say, we're going to shut down the government. They go, great, fantastic. That's like saying to an arsonist, right, if you continue to do that, we're going to give you more fire.
Yeah, and an arsonist actually is a really good term for what's happening. These are political and governmental arsonists. They want government gone. They want the rise of an autocracy and an authoritarian leader. I've called it before a soft coup, because it's not really a violent coup yet. And he's taking control of the military, putting in loyalists. They're loyalists all across the board. But what's happening now with government, if you view government as the thing restricting you as a rising autocratic leader, then you don't want government anymore. And the other thing, of course, and most are familiar with the sort of authoritarian playbook, is that the more government is defanged, dismantled, and the more of a mess there is in America, the easier it is for an authoritarian to rise. Let me show you how I'll restore order here. Yeah, the government's not working for you anymore. You're not getting your Social Security checks. You're not, and sure, the trail of breadcrumbs goes back to Donald Trump, but people are so desperate for order to be restored that the authoritarian rises. It's a chilling and pretty simple plan.
We have asked ourselves so many times, how did the Germans in Germany before Hitler, how did they not know this was happening? How did they allow this to happen? And there is a playbook, and Timothy Snyder, Beyond Tyranny, and all these other people have been talking about it and telling us this. General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said Donald Trump is a fascist to the core, but we wouldn't listen. We were focused on the best salesman, con man, grifter, liar in American history. And he was able to get to low information voters and get them to abide by what he's doing. But again, the core of this goes deeper, Mark, and that is this thing called the dark enlightenment, dark MAGA. And we need to focus much more on that. So what can we do? What can we do? I'll ask the question. There's really, quite honestly, I'm so sorry to say this, there's not much we can do. Because let's say we go out into the streets. They've got the army, right? Let's say we jump up and down. We call all our congressmen and our Republican senators and our Republican members of the House. They're not going to pay any attention to us when Elon Musk picks up the phone and says, unless you go along with everything Donald Trump wants, I'm going to put $25 million into your primary race, and you are no longer going to be a member of Congress. So the only thing we can do, and it's not a lot, but it's something, is we can create a tsunami of new voter registrations and vote in these special elections in Florida, vote in the November elections in New Jersey and Virginia, and show that we're not taking this anymore, and we can register to vote in the 2026 midterms. Probably it's going to be a little too late, but just the idea of having a tsunami of people voting, in addition to like what I did on Saturday, standing in front of a Tesla dealership, right? But that's performative.
Sure.
Voting is the bottom line. And so I'm working with vote.org. I created a special URL, vote.org/register for FOR, register for 2026. So everybody re-register if you're not registered in the right place. Get your kids to register. In some states, 16 and 17-year-olds can pre-register. So that's the best way we can citizen in a time when we have almost no leverage or power. And I wish I could say differently, but we literally lost. I want you to know how important voting is. We lost the United States House of Representatives by about 7,500 votes.
Wow.
75. So that's 1/3 of crypto arena.
Yeah.
That's how many votes we lost the House of Representatives. Otherwise, Hakeem Jeffries would be the speaker, and they would not have the leverage that they have to do the bad things. We would be able to subpoena Elon Musk every single day. We would be able to subpoena all these people. 7,000 votes. And when people say to me, my vote doesn't count, I say, that is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you're giving up your power when you buy into that.
It states it so bluntly and so beautifully. I mean, it's an extraordinary thing. So you have a government now of patronage, of corruption, of grift. The meme coins alone are a great way for money transfers to be executed to provide Donald Trump, through Melania Trump and through these meme coins, all of this money that is untraceable. So you have more ways to buy this president and buy this administration than you've had in the history of this country. So you've talked about, what can be done, and I love your idea, even though it does seem as though, it'll take some time, right, to get some momentum, the registration. I wonder, just in closing, if you can revisit, because we had a little trouble with your audio at the top, revisit the fact that there isn't leverage, so you're left with these bad choices, closing down the government, which is something that arguably Musk and Trump would like to see, that then they could really, in the darkness there, do all kinds of additional damage, and the keeping the government open, but funding them in ways that are, as you say, odious. So can you just revisit, because the call for Schumer to step down and the call for someone to take the place of Schumer, who has kind of more of the bilious rage, the AOC, somebody who can message harder and be more of a flamethrower. Obviously, AOC wouldn't replace Schumer, but my point is, someone in that kind of cut, there is just I think the calls are getting louder and louder.
So two things can be true at the same time, Mark. Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, the older guys and women in the Senate that voted to allow the government to stay funded, they are completely right. And it took and it takes a level of communication expertise that they do not have. There are only a few people in our party that have that communication expertise. There's Barack Obama, there's Michelle Obama, there's Pete Buttigieg. I believe Bernie Sanders is extraordinary. Jasmine Crockett, Chris Murphy is getting better. AOC is phenomenal, and she may be a senator. I'm sure she's thinking about running against Chuck, but that's not going to be for a while. We need better communicators, and even Hakeem Jeffries, I love the man, but we need someone who can match fire with fire. And we're getting a fire hose of bullshit, and we're responding to it with a squirt gun. And we need a whole infrastructure of rapid response. We can't put it all on one man or one woman. But having said that, I support Chuck. I think he's a frickin' American hero for doing what he knew would cause him enormous criticism. But I do think his time is done, and we do need better spokespeople to represent a party that has a 29% approval rating.
It's pathetic. I mean, it's hard to imagine that party is going to reascend to power.
So because of that, I got a bumper sticker. I covered up my Tesla logo, and I put a bumper sticker that said "Proud Democrat," because the Democratic Party is awesome. People just don't know about it, and they don't know about it because we're not communicating effectively. I'd love to see Mark Thompson as Senate Minority or Majority Leader for the Democrats.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Get to work on that, man.
Yeah. What I'd like to see, just as long as we're trading compliments, I would like to see you or someone like you who is good in the world of communication work with these leaders. I don't know if they have media workshops. I don't know how they handle this. Let me tell you, when you become an athlete in the NFL or at the highest levels, you know where they sit you down? They sit you down with a media workshop leader. These NBA players, etc., they teach you how to speak to the media. And there's a reason for that, because if you don't speak well and effectively from a messaging standpoint or know what not to say, you can screw up your whole life and your whole career. That is true in politics also. Somebody has to have media workshops with these people and teach them how to communicate. So Richard Greene, you do that. That's what you do. You're, among other things, you're a political consultant, media consultant.
So I'm a communication strategist. I learned from the best. I was Tony Robbins' lawyer back in, the beginning of his career. And my phone call immediately after this, Mark, will be to a staff member of a very amazing United States senator to talk about exactly this thing. Politics is won or lost based on communication. And right now our communication game is AA, if not single A, and we need for it to be major league.
Exactly. I mean, it's sales. You have to sell. You have to sell an idea. You have to sell a piece of legislation. You have to sell a movement. They've got to get off their asses and stop reading these ridiculously well-crafted pieces of copy that are read like you're reading some prayer in a Sunday morning service. You've got to sell it, man. Sell it. Sell it like the priest is selling the religion, as opposed to the parishioner is selling the religion. And that's, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. All right. Richard, I adore you. Keep up the good fight, and we'll see you again soon. Richard Greene, the Civics Dean. You can find him at Civics Dean on TikTok and across the free world. Thank you, my friend.
And Substack as well. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
Talk soon. Richard Greene, the Civics Dean.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. We got it worked out, Tony. I don't know what you did. I'm giving you credit.
I pushed all the buttons a lot, and somehow it worked. I don't know.
I mean, it was terrible at the beginning. And
yeah,
you made
it's basically inside StreamYard. There's like an auto canceling and auto mic adjustment, and it seems to usually happen mostly with Apple stuff that it'll it basically the two OSs conflict with each other, and it starts. That's what that clipping is. It's basically it's clipping the microphone. It's trying to turn it off.
I have to tell you, those of you who are regulars, we have Richard Greene on, and
every time
he has these issues. That's why it's so crazy. I don't know.
Maybe it's his internet connection. Like maybe that's where it starts.
I think he's got
because the video is fine.
Yeah,
it's literally whatever OS. Because I had just assumed it was Apple, like an iPhone or something, but he said it's on Android. So
I don't know.
I blame you.
All right, maybe it's my fault. All right.
Well, I think also it's because he's using since it's on the phone, the audio is coming through the speaker, so it's basically trying to cancel the echo and stuff like that.
Oh, well, then we could tell him to do. We could reconfigure that somehow.
Headphones or a microphone would help, is what I think.
Shell Hughes with some love your show, but here's my problem. What can I do as a single human being to have an effect on what's going on? Please let me know. Thank you. And do I have to donate money to get my question asked?
Why are you yelling?
No, Shell. We put a lot of questions on where people don't donate money. What we do is if somebody puts up a super chat, like puts in money, we make sure that at least appears on the screen. That I will say is true. But no, we put on a lot of questions that are, I would say even more than half are not underwritten anyway. What can you do? You just heard a couple of suggestions as to what you can do with registration and getting out more in the way of registration, even in your family. And I think he also frames that well. I like the fact that he talks about the fact that, from a practical governing standpoint, there are very few options. But I do believe, and I've talked about it before on the show, you can call, you should be calling your representatives and senators. You may feel that doesn't make a difference. But again, normally GOP voters outpace Democratic or independent voters 8-1 in terms of their calls to their congresspeople and senators. Make your voice heard. Romania Animal Rescue, I'll have more on that in a second. How about a $20 super sticker from Romania Animal Rescue, Inc., and they do such great work. Yes, big shout out and a big round of recorded applause for Romania Animal Rescue. Really cool. Gosh, I see so much stuff in the way of animal rescue and sadly animal cruelty. I get because I'm active in a lot of these different charities and outreach programs, and it's a real uphill battle. So my hat's off to Romania Animal Rescue. Richard says with a $5 super chat, dear benevolent aliens, if you can hear us, in quotes, please help us. We're stupid. I'm getting the Irish whiskey out right now. Richard has the plan on this St. Paddy's Day, and it involves whiskey. And then Mo Direct says, the damage has already been done. This is a $5 super chat. Thank you. It'll take at least 3 presidential election cycles to even try to repair it. I actually feel, I don't mean to bum anybody out, but Mo, I think you're actually under or overestimating, however you want to look at it, the amount of time to actually right the ship. I mean, assuming you will have another election in America, another fair election, and you may say, oh, please, Mark, there's going to be an election. Oh, there'll be an election. There are elections in a lot of authoritarian countries. There are elections in China. There are elections in Russia. There are elections in Hungary. Hungary's an interesting situation because the public is starting to break back on Viktor Orban. But generally what's done is authoritarian leaders have the fix in. I mean, if you look at these countries, many of them that I just mentioned, there are opposition parties. There's a Republican Democrat type setup in many of these countries. They want that opposition party. It creates the illusion of fairness. But the election itself is not fair. It is predetermined. And with Musk together with this crew, you're telling me, looking at things, you think everything is on the up and up and would be? I mean, this isn't a guy who's going to give up power. So I, Mo Direct, actually have a more pessimistic view. I would suggest a realistic view of the future. And it doesn't even have so much to do with America. It has to do with all of the interlocking pieces that America fits into. The NATO alliance, the European Union, our allies, and their fragile alliances. We now realize how fragile they are worldwide. All of these things matter. The undoing of USAID, the soft power that America has, that is going away. It's gone away with the sweep of a pen. That matters. And that will take generations to bring back, not just 3 presidential cycles. So I'm less optimistic than are you, and I think you're not that optimistic. But I think those are the realities, and that's the circumstance we find ourselves in now. Now, one of the things I mentioned was, making your voice heard, and one of the things I liked was this pushback that legislators who are, I'm talking about GOP legislators that are going to meet their constituencies are are seeing. And that was the case, was it in North Carolina, Asheville, where there was that big pushback? We just have a short out on it right now. But we found out more about, remember there was the guy who gets up and he says, you're not, you're ruining my veterans benefits and you've taken my, I'm just trying to find the exact quote here. I can never find it when I need it, but here it is. These town halls where angry people are getting up and, talking about what the situation is, what the real situation is. The reality is that these are real people with real concerns. The message is, no, they're not. They're just Democratic plants. Isn't that kind of what's been argued?
That's what's been argued. Republicans are saying these are paid activists, paid protesters going around to all of these town hall meetings. Now, Democrats, by the way, have just come out with a new plan. Their plan is to host town halls in all of these places, have their lawmakers put out more town halls to show that, no, they'll probably get the same type of people coming to their town halls with the same concerns. So that's the newest thing. There was another town hall over the weekend where someone was extremely concerned about Social Security, stood up and said, listen, we pay for this. We paid into this system, and they're now shutting down offices, shutting down phone numbers. And so I can't even call and get the help that I need.
Now, in that case, I was in Michigan. The lawmaker reiterated, don't worry, they're not touching Social Security. Hey, they've already touched it. Okay. And the idea somehow, don't worry, they're not touching it. No, those are the old days. But the idea that dude who stood up and was yelling in that Chuck Edwards, North Carolina town hall, the idea that he was a plant, not so much. Tony, roll a little bit. They have an interview with him. They, on the spot. This is, as you can see, that's Chuck Edwards, and Jay Carey is his name, and he went viral for telling Edwards to, F off. So, go ahead, Tony. You have it, or
yeah.
So that he's right. He's absolutely right. I mean, again, going after the VA and Social Security. Bad plan, and not actually what is laid out in Project 2025. In Project 2025, they really lay out a blueprint for doing a lot of what they're doing now, but it's far more organized. It's far more deliberate. And one of the things they talk about is we want to privatize Social Security and privatize these programs or get rid of them completely. It shouldn't be under government control, is their view. And even though these are wildly successful programs that Americans count on, and there's no inefficiency and waste compared to many other government programs and agencies. And if you really want the inefficiency and waste, as I've said before, go across the Potomac to the Pentagon. You will not see anything in the world that could approach is even a day's drive within the kind of waste and fraud that exists within the Pentagon. But anyway, their plan was to not bring Social Security and the Veterans Administration front and center right away. They were going to try to dismantle a lot of these agencies that the public might not notice as much, lower profile agencies. Frankly, USAID might have been among them. I don't remember. But I know USAID and FAA he went after immediately because he had, Musk had personal problems with them. They were the regulatory issues and fines from those agencies. But my point is simply, now that they're talking about Social Security and the Veterans Administration, you're going to get more of this pushback of the sort that we've just seen. These are veterans. These are elderly people. They paid into the system. They deserve something back, legitimately. And they're angry, and they deserve to be angry. And so you're going to see more of that in these town meetings. Randy says, where are all the major DOGE announcements about how much waste and fraud they found at the Defense Department? Yeah, there's none. They're not going to, the figures are made up anyway. I mean, these are made up figures. I heard Trump the other day, this is just the other day, might have been Friday, saying that DOGE had found $500 billion, maybe it was during that Tesla pitch, $500 billion. And he said, with a B. of waste, fraud, and abuse. What?
Where?
Yeah. Again, Trump makes this stuff up in the moment, but he sells it better than anyone. And a lot of people lap it up. And the other thing I would just, to dovetail with Richard Greene, the civics dean, it's a dangerous time in America because there really isn't a viable opposition party at all. The Democrats have lost control of both bodies of Congress, and they are, based on recent polling, not very popular. 29% popularity, apparently. So this is a scary time if you're the opposition. So before I get to David Pakman's coming up, and I'm really looking forward to that conversation. He's really such a smart cat.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Albert, the commissioner of Marx Madness, joins us at the end of the show. So we will explain a lot about what's going on with Marx Madness. If you've never played it before, it can be fun. We play our sound drops off against each other, like the brackets of the NCAA. You vote for which one goes on to the next round, and then we end up with a winner at the end. We crown a winner, and we crown a winner among those who have played the brackets. Last year's winner, the sound drop that won was
There's always been in this country 30 to 35% idiots.
Yeah, that was the Jim Avila sound drop that did win last year, but this year it's not in the hunt. So we'll have to see. Now, quickly, I want to address what the president did overnight.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Donald Trump was angry overnight. And Donald Trump, in a middle-of-the-night meltdown, has declared that the pardons issued by Joe Biden are no longer in effect. They are void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. And he wrote that in capital letters.
Good day, sir.
The president claiming that Biden's pardons were signed by an auto pen. This is apparently in a report from a right-wing group that must have gotten to Trump somehow. And they suggest that the use of this mechanical device in the Biden White House voids a lot of these declarations and pardons.
Isn't it common, the auto pen?
Yes, it's been used for quite some time.
Okay.
But that doesn't prevent Donald Trump from declaring full-throatedly and passionately. Tony has it for you here. I know you want to read along with me. The pardons, in quotes, that Sleepy Joe Biden gave to the unselect committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force and effect because of the fact that they were done by auto pen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. No, I mean, again, this is just made up, but the necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. And he goes on.
Joe Biden talked about who he was pardoning.
Exactly.
He was asked the following day who he was pardoning, why he was pardoning them. He gave press conferences about it, about pardoning the people convicted of nonviolent crimes, of drug offenses. He went on and on about it. This is asinine.
Yeah. The other thing is that it was like one of the most talked about things for 6 weeks prior to the pardons being issued. There were panel discussions about it. Should he issue preemptive pardons? There were all of these questions about the Trump political machine coming and what they might go after once they were in power. And so in view of that, Biden made these quite extraordinary preemptive pardons. So the idea that he didn't know is sort of but that's the hook on which Trump is hanging the latest.
He's also saying that he's alleging something sinister happening.
Sure.
That not only, he says, did President Biden not even understand what was happening because he is so, gorked out, but also that the people that he pardoned, especially on the January 6th committee, had a hand in doing this, that somehow they pardoned themselves with the auto pen, and that the full investigation on all of these people is a coming. Really? I think he's just bitter beans that he didn't get to go after people he wanted to go after. And
Yeah.
how incredibly short-sighted, because if you vacate or void or whatever, even with court backing, President Biden's pardons, then yours are next, pal.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a legal leg to stand on here. It's just bluster. But he is getting away with doing a lot, and he helps feed the narrative that, they broke the law. And the more he feeds the narrative they break the law, then the we break the law, or we stretch the law, or we ignore the courts, all of a sudden seems as though it's just a balancing act. It's really part of this aggressive, pugnacious, angry, vengeful thing that he does. And he does it effectively. So we'll see where it all settles out, but they're not going to avoid any pardons. No. I mean, again, if you get a fair court judgment, you really will not get that. You will not get him. These pardons will be fought in court for years. Yeah, let me just mention something about what's going to be fought in court, because I think it's really important. The idea somehow, yes, thank you.
Ooh,
that was loud.
Thank you. Was that loud? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
These levels are all crazy. I don't know, I'm really bumming about the levels, but I don't know what I can do. Right now, anyway, what I can do. One of the things that's happening right now, and I think does bear some attention, is that they're doing that thing that they think is so cool. It's the, it's the tech bro thing, the startup thing, move fast and break stuff. Move fast and break stuff. If this is the U.S. government and the United States of America, we move deliberately and we're careful about things so as not to break them. What they've done is they have moved fast and they've broken government and government's ability to do things. And in discharging tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of federal workers, they are creating a dismantling of the government that will leave it unable to do a lot of the stuff that it's supposed to do. So you say, yeah, but they're going to court and they're going to, you can see how he's losing in all these court cases. I keep hearing that. Trump is losing in all these court cases, case after case. He's losing. Of course, he's losing because he's doing things that are illegal. Musk is doing things that are illegal. The existence of Doge is illegal. The allowing for this reckless, wanton destruction of government is likely illegal, not empowered by any sort of congressional approval. But it's going on. So you say, well, so now in the courts, he's going to lose and all those people are going to be reinstated. Not really. Yes, he's losing, but it takes time to reinstate everyone. And by the time you reinstate them, they've moved on. Many of them. These are competent people who really had a sense of public service. I'd suggest this public service and that sense is not shared by a lot of people who are involved in these firings. But the thing I want to make clear is that this is a clever Trumpian strategy to go to the courts and in the courts stretch it out. And by the time we get a court judgment that says, hey, you got to reinstate everybody, those people have moved on. Now, again, some of the court judgments come quickly. Some of those reinstatements come quickly. But changing the face of government is not something you can do if you're waiting for the courts to correct everything. And sadly, we're kind of left to do that. But I just want to be clear that when we talk about what he's losing in all of these court cases, and these are ways in which the norms will be established and reestablished, and will essentially hold the line through the courts. I'd say that the fact that you're ending up in the courts in so many different cases, with laughably illegal things that they're doing, it still takes time to undo it. And sometimes you can't undo it at all. It's like, if we're making a casserole and we turn it over for the night to a chef who just puts a bunch of salt and hot peppers and stuff that it becomes inedible. Maybe, pieces of metal from the kitchen fall in and he just stirs it into the casserole.
Gross.
So we go to court and they say, yeah, he was not deputized to do that. He was not authorized to do that. So take those metal pieces out and take those cayenne peppers out. Well, you can't. The casserole is destroyed. we have to start with a whole new casserole. And so I think this is a bit of what we're seeing now. There's so much wanton destruction that it's hard to undo. And again, it's important to keep track of what it is, though. So those of you say, yeah, I know it's bad. I just don't want to know anything about it, man. What can we do? You need to keep track of it. You need to make noise. You need to make the calls. You need to show up to meetings. These are the ways in which eventually you may be able to retake power. So I see this all as dangerous, scary. I'm, as you know, not necessarily optimistic about things, but by the same token, I think you need to be vigilant. You must be vigilant on this stuff. So that's where I am on it. Did you hear what Tom Homan said about the court decision regarding the deported immigrants over the weekend? Homan said he didn't care what the court said. Yeah, you have that, Tony? And then I'll go to David. This is Homan over the weekend.
Every day, the men and women of ICE are going to be in the neighborhoods of this nation arresting criminal, illegal alien, public safety threats, and national security threats. Lawrence, you're not going to stop us. We made a promise to the American people. The President Trump has made a promise to the American people. We're going to make this country safe again. I wake up every morning loving my job because I work for the greatest president in the history of my life, and we're going to make this country safe again. I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
So
I don't care. He actually said, I don't care what the judges say.
Yeah. I mean, some of that is designed for Trump to hear, but it is true. And it would certainly be the case in these deportations involving the Venezuelans really do reflect the fact that they're moving fast and they want to move ahead of the courts. And if you look at the timeline that I saw published earlier this morning on these Venezuelan deportations, it seems as though at least one of those planes hadn't taken off when that judge's order came down. So they actually violated the judge's order in that deportation. So, yeah, this is going to be where the shoe pinches. But
what's the penalty for that? If he has immunity for anything that he does while he's, acting in official presidential office, then he can disregard the judge's order and it's fine.
He has immunity, but still what they did is they can be held in contempt. So that would be the next step. Now, enforcing the contempt might be tricky, but that would be the next step on the part of the court. You can't just blow off a legal judgment like that, a legal decision. So we'll talk more about it, but it's definitely the next frontier that they're going for. So smash the like button. That helps us in the YouTube universe. I don't really understand it, but apparently it's important. So thank you for that. And David Pakman next as we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Such a fan of David Pakman. I must tell you, I've been watching him for so long. Now he's got a book, The Echo Machine, How Right-Wing Extremism Created a Post-Truth America. Seems so aptly titled for what we've seen. His YouTube channel has 2.2 million subscribers and more than 2 billion total video views. Wow. It's humbling. I just really was a fan of his. And then I realized, oh my God, everybody else is a fan of his too. I mean, he's a big deal. How about it for David Pakman, everybody?
Hello.
Look at you. Nice to see you, sir. Wow.
And it's been so long. We actually just crossed 3 million YouTube subscribers this weekend. So
wow.
It's quite a situation, Mark.
Well, I have to tell you, and then I'll get into the politics and everything, but it's really cool to meet you and talk to you because I do think you're like a YouTube success story and an independent media success story. You're obviously very insightful, super smart, and I love your stuff.
Thank you.
And I think you do I'm learning how to do the YouTube thing, okay, which is a thing. You do that so well. And so I looked, you're kind of, I wouldn't say my North Star, but I'd say among the things I aspire to, like very good titling and just the subject matter that you get. I mean, I'm realizing how important that is. And are you a one-man band? You're so big, there's no way you're a one-man band, right?
No, I try not to touch anything technical. If I'm touching something technical, bad things are happening. But no, we have a team, and I don't just do the hosting. I do a lot of other things, but I try to do as little as possible to distract from just thinking about what's going on, thinking about what I want to say, and really kind of like content first.
Yeah, that's great. See, unfortunately, that's my thing, but I also have to wade into these other places like titling and all the rest because we're a smaller show, obviously.
Well, interestingly, I have not delegated. I'm keeping a grip on titles. I still do titles myself.
Okay, so, and here's the other thing, Pakman, and I'm so impressed by your titling that I'm going to tell you what I think is one of your bits of secret sauce, okay? Because I have studied it, all right? I think you do a lot of stuff that suggests that, Trump is really screwed up this time, or, boy, Trump embarrasses himself in front of press, this kind of thing where people want to see, the left and the resistance wants to see them trip up once in a while. Am I right?
No, you're right. And there's actually a serious conversation here, which I may actually be tackling in some kind of future publication, which is I want to do the most substantive stuff I can. And also, in order to get people to see it, there's a different game you have to play on each platform. So, there's all these discussions of are you reaching for some kind of lowest denominator with the titles? My thing is, I want to pick a title that will garner the biggest possible audience, but also it has to reflect what's in the video. So if I say Trump's been taken out on a stretcher and that didn't happen, then that's a problem,
Sure. It's of course true. You can't save souls in an empty church type thing. You've got to bring people in to make the point. And your points are super great. And the last thing, my last bit of compliment, and then we'll move on to, is I love the way you get it. You go down behind enemy lines, and you'll show up on Patrick Ben-David's show, and you'll show up, and actually, I was invited to be on a show. Maybe you remember this. It's this Jesse something. He's a reverend or he's something.
Jesse Lee Peterson. I did that. I did that show.
I know you did. And he had reached out to me, or his people did. And so before I got back to them, I went back and looked, and I watched you with him, and you had the patience of a saint with him, because you can tell everybody, how would you describe him? He just pushes everything to the extreme.
Oh, it's almost beyond. The English language is up against its limits in describing Jesse Lee Peterson. But no, the thing with him is I don't want to get specific, but he suffered a number of setbacks over the last couple of years, a number of controversies and dramas that I think have maybe diminished his platform to some degree. So you may have missed the opportunity, unfortunately.
Well, no, I turned it down. I also I think I asked Cenk Uygur about it too, because Cenk had gone on with him also, and Cenk said, unless you just want to do it to be entertained, don't do it. It's not it's not worth it. But I watched yours, and I thought you were just when you're dealing with sort of the absurdity of arguments that come from the right, the justification of various things, leaving Jesse out, just in general, the absurdity of right-wing arguments. They need to be addressed in a calm and strategic manner. I feel that you do that well. I mean, you're not a flamethrower. You're not an F-bomb spewing guy. And that's another way to get a lot of clicks, but you haven't gone for that. You really do seem to talk about things substantively.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I don't really have a character that I play on my show. And so, like, the F-bomb stuff, it's just not really who I am. And so it would feel disingenuous. And I think audiences tend to know, are you connecting with me on the level of who you really are? Or is this kind of like a contrived and fabricated character? And so I've always said to my audience, we're not going to agree on everything. I don't know anyone where you agree on everything, but you'll always know what I really believe. There won't be like strategic hot takes to garner clicks or anything like that. It's just what I believe, for better or worse, you know? And if I believe Trump just ejected a tonsil stone during his State of the Union, which I believe he did a couple weeks ago, I'll tell you, I think that that's what he did. It's not a contrived thing. For better or worse, you know, that's my approach.
So let me get to a couple of things that are happening now, and then I want to ask you about the book if I can. The things that are happening now, I mean, there are so many, of course, but the drumbeat that we're hearing louder and louder is that the old guard from the Democrats has to be replaced. Chuck Schumer really showed little or no resistance with his explanation for why he was supporting this Republican CR. I wonder if you can speak to what you would do. I mean, what you would have counseled for Schumer, and also B, the state of the state for the Democratic Party.
Let me take the second part first. The state is not great. You know, one of the things that I've been telling anyone in the party who will listen, and I was lucky enough to be invited down to the White House after Harris was defeated, right? So it's sort of like, what are we doing? It's a little too late. But I was invited down to the White House in December and met with senior Biden officials and met with the former president himself. And one of the things that I've been saying is, instead of figuring out what sort of candidate you need and taking someone and trying to mold them into something which they're not, which I think is part of the problem of what happened with Kamala Harris, where the first couple of weeks of her campaign were pretty good. And then it all became the same speech 4 times a day, and it just became something different. You need to find the candidate that is what would actually be useful to the party and what would be appealing, because it really, in the same way that I don't do the contrived positions on my show, I think voters know when you are trying to be someone you really aren't. And the thing about Trump is, for better or for worse, I would argue for the worse, he seems to kind of genuinely be who he presents as, other than the fact that he lies about all of his political positions. Now, I think that this is like a critical thing. On the one hand, Trump's not anti-abortion. He's been pro-choice for 68 years. Then he ran for president and said, oh, I'm pro-life. All the positions are totally contrived, but the kind of like, I'll just say what comes to mind, I'll repeat what someone told me 5 minutes ago, it's Trump, right? So the point I'm making is, by the time the consultants got to Harris and tried to turn her into what they believed was the best Democratic candidate, it felt disingenuous. And so that's where I think the Democratic Party needs to start, which is, instead of a laundry list of traits that they want to mold someone into, find the people who have those traits.
Yeah, that's something that I've been crowing about for years now, is that messaging is just such a big part of politics. I mean, you have to sell. I was saying this last hour. You have to, it's a sales job. And Trump is a tremendous salesman. So he's lying. I mean, he's lying all the time. He's making up figures, and so trying to knock down the lies is a full-time job. But his genius is knowing that people aren't knocking down the lies in real time, and he can say whatever he wants. And they go, well, maybe is there a kernel of truth to that? And even if you discount 50% of that, it's still horrible. No, it's completely 100% a lie, what he's saying. But to your point, and to the point I've been making over and over, I think that, you know, they do need to find people in the party who can message. And I was saying before to somebody who's involved in counseling the Democratic Party in this way, that they really do need workshops in how to communicate. I mean, when you're left with a handful of people like Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg and Jasmine Crockett to be able, and AOC, of course, that's not enough. I mean, it seems to me the right wing really knows how to get on and spit fire.
They do, and there was this Media Matters report over the weekend about the relative sizes of the sort of follower counts of left versus right-wing online shows, and the right is just absolutely crushing us, and it's one of the things I think that they've done best. And I hate to say it, part of it is they understand you've got to put money into this stuff. You know, we don't have a Daily Wire on the left. We don't have a lot of these individual funders who are just dumping money in and saying, just grow. Even if you're just spending it on Facebook ads to just buy the biggest audience you can, which then you now have a bully pulpit. We just really don't have it. And so that's a big part of it. The other thing, as far as the candidates go, is, compare for a second Trump showing up and hanging out for 3 hours with Rogan, for however long he did it with Lex Friedman, the Nelk boys, all of these. And he says wacky stuff. I mean, wacky stuff, but it's relaxed. It seems like you'd like to be in that room. Contrast it with, after all of the negotiations, a set is built for Alex Cooper. It's not even her set. It's like a contrived set just to interview Kamala Harris. Extreme restrictions were placed in terms of duration. It feels tense. It doesn't create an environment where you say, this is a group I want to be a part of. And this is a big failing.
Yeah, and it's funny, I was saying at the time, I don't know what the Democrats are afraid of. Go on Joe Rogan. Go on Joe Rogan. You'll have 4 tough questions, all of which you should have answers. If you want to be president, I don't think I'll have any issue at all. Make the questions as tough as you want. Like, when did you know Joe Biden, wasn't all there, or whatever it might be. Let them drill down on it. You'll have 4 of those moments, and the rest of it, as you've said, will be just a hangout. And all of a sudden, people will get to feel like, wow, that was cool. She's all right. It's a fear that I think comes out of wanting some sort of manicured, choreographed moment that the Democrats really work toward. And I think what you've got in Trump, though, is a generational political figure, don't you think, David? I mean, he's
Absolutely.
able to handle anything.
Yeah, and now the concern is it going to go to the next generation? Because, people are talking about, what about Don Jr. in 2028, either alongside J.D. Vance or, this is, I wouldn't laugh off any of this stuff.
No, not at all. Okay, one other question about what's going on, and then I'll get to the book. And you didn't, by the way, just for the record, you didn't ask to pitch the book. I just am intrigued by the book, so I want to ask you about it. The other stuff that's happening involved what we were speaking about before you joined us, and that was the way in which increasingly the courts are something of a speed bump for the Trump administration, but increasingly it looks also as though they may be ignored. Can you speak to that?
Well, one of the things from term number 1 was we learned a lot of the checks and balances that were put in place really did not account for the possibility of someone like a Trump. They're just not, they don't have the teeth that they really need in order to truly be checks and balances. And one of the things we were talking about today on my program with my producer was this decree that the Venezuelan gang members should not be sent to El Salvador. And the flights were on the way. A court said, you got to turn the flights around. You can't do it. And it was just ignored. And so we are again up against this question of what exactly can the court do? I mean, are they going to say, we're going to, arrest the pilots? They're obviously not going to do anything to Trump. What exactly is it that can be done? Will they repatriate the deportees because they believe that the deportations were done incorrectly? I don't know that they're going to do any of it. I think it's been ignored. The court directive has been ignored. And they're going to get away with it. And so it's just another reminder of, yes, to think back to Plato, the problem with democracy is some of the most ignorant people end up making decisions, and we got Trump. So that's a problem, right? The voters are a problem, but you don't want to just blame the voters. We also have the situation where we're realizing the checks and balances aren't nearly robust enough, not even close.
The other thing about that Venezuelan situation is I think that it plays in politics of the moment. Like, you see, libs, of course, you're pulling this crap with Trump, and he's trying to get rid of dangerous people. And so he's put them on planes, and he's actually done something. You guys talk about it, and you talk about American security, but he actually does something. I think he wins the cycle with that.
There's a degree to which he does. And of course, when you dig into the details, Trump is using totally novel interpretation of what it means to be at war, right? I mean, even the legal framework for these immediate deportations was never used without a formal declaration of war. It's all seemingly extrajudicial. But again, it's like, unless someone's really going to impose some kind of limit, why wouldn't he just keep going? Because he's gotten away with essentially everything.
Just in that area, I'll ask you, is it your sense, and then I'm going to double back to a question that I asked you before and you didn't quite answer it. The free and fair election thing, David, I worry about whether or not, I was saying before that, there are elections in Russia, there are opposition parties in Hungary. I mean, there is the artifice of a free election, and we could have that easily here and not actually have an outcome that isn't predetermined. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, as far as 2024 goes, I believe Trump won. Like, I just think Trump genuinely won. And I know that there are people who write to me and say, no, you got to look at Greg Palast. And, I've done an analysis of that. I'm willing to be swayed, but I'm not seeing any of the underlying data that really proves the assertions that he's making. Willing to have my mind changed, but...
You didn't think that the disenfranchisement of voters was reached a threshold that might have actually influenced the outcome?
When I analyze the data that Greg presents, there's a lot of extrapolation that I found to be not done to my satisfaction.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just wrong about it, right? But I genuinely think Trump won in 2024. Could a future election could the process be subjugated such that we have a predetermined outcome? At this point, how could I say, no, that could never happen? I don't know right now what is exactly the mechanism that would be at play. I hope it would never get to that point. I just think it's important to be really careful when we start making these sorts of accusations. We want to make sure that we're not just doing what they did. And when they did it in 2020, it was extraordinarily spurious. So as soon as I have what I think is incontrovertible data, I will report it. So I don't know if that's a direct answer to your question.
No, it is. I thought that's a fair answer, actually, and it accounts for the situation that kind of informs the future, which is what happened this past time. Now, last thing about the Chuck Schumer thing. So you didn't, though, tell me, do you think, what would you have done there? That's a tough spot. Wouldn't you agree, David? It's a tough spot.
And I spoke with a couple of members of Congress and senators about this. And, one of the problems is no matter what happens, when there's a government shutdown, Republicans will try to blame Democrats. Either Democrats did it or Democrats forced our hand or we had to do it because there was all of this stuff. I do think that there was a risk to Democrats of being the party for years and years that says you always keep government open, and then all of a sudden saying, well, in this case, we don't, and all of the reasons we previously said you need to keep it open aren't valid. So I thought there was a problem with that. However, I'm not a political strategist, but if I was dropped into the situation, I would have likely said, eventually we do have to keep government open, but can we push harder so that we get something that is of value that we can take back to voters and say, listen, ultimately they have the cards. Here's how people would have been hurt if the government did close, but here's this thing that we got. And I just don't think we got that.
Yeah, no, I mean, clearly not. Now, tell me about the new book, The Echo Machine, How Right-Wing Extremism Created a Post-Truth America. Such a great title. Once again, the Pakman titles are so strong.
Well, listen, I try to really do three things in this book. Number one is explain to folks how we got to where we are right now. And it really didn't start with Trump or MAGA. That's the end point. It really started probably in the end of the 50s with the beginning of the civil rights era, resentment against integration and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's where the story kind of starts. And then there's a series of stops on the way, including Reagan, including Clinton, Newt Gingrich taking over as Speaker of the House, Bush, Obama, Trump. And ultimately, Trumpism is kind of the landing point. And so that's one story I tell to understand how we got to where we are. The second part of the book is understanding that a lot of this is built on a lack of media literacy, critical thinking, and just sort of like basic epistemology skills to a degree as a deliberate action of right-wing school boards and Republicans in red states to eliminate a lot of the curricula that would better prepare people not to fall for a lot of this stuff. So that's like part 2 of the story. And then part 3 is just that there are examples of countries that have figured out a lot of these things, and they're not socialist countries. They have capitalism, they have market economies, but they've figured out how to prevent some of the worst of what we have here, whether it's with education, healthcare, or otherwise. And so I tell those progressive success stories in the book as well.
That's terrific. Really great. How long were you working on it? It's not easy to write a book.
You know, the writing itself took 4 months, which is relatively short, but it took over a year to finally get a proposal that my literary agent and I liked, and it took 3 more months to get a publisher to say, we like it, go ahead and write it. And then from when you turn it in until when it publishes, that's another 8 months. Like, I'm used to, I have an idea and within 2 weeks it's executed, you know? Sure. So this was like a real experiment in patience, but so in total we're talking about a couple of years.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. I mean, and you probably, you're thinking, well, now I could actually, put in some kind of addendum to the book because of, stuff changes in that 2 years.
This is a really tough thing, right? Because there are videos I did last week where I would change a couple of things. And to turn the book in and then to see everything that's happened, you feel like you have to rewrite the book. But, I feel very good that it's reflective of where we are right now. And it'll really inform people as to how we got here.
Well, we'll have a link under this video to the book. And we have a pretty good, I know we're not a big show like David Pakman's show, but we have a very good track record in the bump that book sales gets. You're going to be very happy with this, Pakman. I think you're going to be surprised.
I don't doubt it. And there are, so my orthopedist is now very much in touch with me because I signed 1,300 copies of the book last week. And 200 of them are still available. So if people want a signed copy, they can get them at davidpakman.com/booksmith.
You just sold one here to me. I want a signed copy. Hey, you're from, and we finish up our last minute, but your personal history intrigues me just enough to ask you about it. You're from, is it Argentina? Is it where you're from originally?
I am indeed.
So, and you moved here when you were just a little kid. I want to say 5 or 6.
I was 5, almost 6 when I moved to the U.S., yeah.
And so that fascinates me. You still speak Spanish, I hope.
I do, and with my daughter, exclusively Spanish to try to keep it going.
That's really great, man. I love it. Look, I love everything about you. Keep doing what you're doing. And it is a major, we give Kim credit for having initially reached out to you and getting you on the show because we're all such big fans. It's really a cool thing that you stopped through. So The Echo Machine, How Right-Wing Extremism Created a Post-Truth America, David Pakman's book. There'll be a link underneath this video. All the best, and please come visit again.
Anytime, and keep up the great work, and let's let's figure something out together here on what the next step is,
I'd love it. Let's stay in touch. Thanks. David Pakman, everybody. So long.
The Mark Thompson Show.
That was pretty cool. I'm a big fan of his, as we all are. And Kim gets full credit for getting him into the mix.
He's awesome.
He is pretty cool. Yeah. So, Kim, well done.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll take my bow. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good comments today. I'm seeing a bunch of them. USA should get rid of United Citizens to shut up money from big corporations. Of course, Chantal is right with that $7 super chat. Thank you. That was an inflection moment in this nation's politics. I mean, no question about it. Citizens United is just the legalized bribery that's been associated with politics is scandalous already. And it's only been further permitted by a bunch of other stuff that's happened. I mean, essentially they've legalized bribes in giving politicians the ability to take money after certain legislation that they were lobbied about passes. I mean, look at the Supreme Court just made that ruling in the last 2 years, I believe. So maybe it wasn't even that long. I mean, but I'm astounded that we live in a country where, even the appearance of conflict of interest and pay to play, these things that normally would be disqualifying, they now are completely tolerated and indeed endorsed by the Supreme Court and beyond. What is this? Motorx says we cannot lose herd immunity. RFK Jr. is not a doctor. Yeah, the question about RFK Jr. and the measles outbreak. I mean, those numbers are scary, and they continue to be scary. Spencer Griffin, what up, Spencer? Love that you're having Pakman on. Daily listener of you both. Please ask him about the California governor's race and Newsom's political future. Why am I not seeing this
Oh, no.
until now?
Why are you yelling?
Because I had him on. Who are you people?
Oh,
you
no.
don't. How about a little help?
Yeah.
God.
And just like that, I go from
from the penthouse to the doghouse is where you go.
Why are you yelling?
Right.
Gosh, that is.
I blame you.
Well, it's not my fault.
Mhm.
I'm here talking to him. Spencer's right. Newsom's future. We'll talk about that, I promise, in the future. But I'm sorry you didn't get it on today. Hugh, thank you for a super sticker. $19.99, $20.
Thank
super
you,
sticker.
Hugh.
Big shout out.
We're a crowd-funded show, so we make a big deal out of the part of the crowd that funds us. Forgot to add Bailey's to my morning coffee, says C-Dog. That is the Irish way. Is there such a thing as Irish cannabis? Just give me the truth wants to know. I love how you think, but I don't believe there is. So, I'm now just quickly checking everything else. Anything else I need to pay attention to, since apparently I can't count on the people around me to possibly fold some of these things.
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
It's not. It's not a picnic. It's not a summer camp. It's very tough. All right. Before I get to the news, which I do want to get to, Kim's news, I did want to mention that there has been an environmentally relevant development. There is now a rule that was going to there was a fee associated with methane discharges in gas and in energy production, and Trump has now blocked that rule. So he did this on Friday after we got off the air. He signed a resolution to block the implementation of a fee on oil and gas companies' excess methane emissions. So now they can pollute methane to their heart's content. It is an EPA rule that was just implemented in 2024 that had this fee program. So this is in response to the fact that there's a lot of this corporate polluter stuff, and so you attach a fee to these methane discharges, and Trump has blocked that fee. So it also, as you might imagine, the funds from the fee help companies' emissions reducing technologies be installed and all this kind of stuff. In other words, there's sort of just a general course of trying to reduce methane discharges and toxic discharges in the production of energy. That all goes away now under this new Trump administration's decrees, and among them that one from Friday. And there apparently is a cut from DOGE of food to the bomb-sniffing dogs at TSA.
I couldn't believe this. I saw the story on Facebook, and I thought, that can't be true. And then I went looking for sources, and I found that it's on Newsweek, The Independent. This is wild, Mark.
The bomb-sniffing units were affected by the cuts the same week that the White House celebrated Canine Veterans Day, because everything's ironic in America now. Doge head Elon Musk has admitted that the organization may get some things wrong, and this one they seem to get wrong. The changes to the budget initiated by Doge have affected key parts of the National Explosives Detection Canine Team program. And as of the moment, all requests for everything to include vet visits, kenneling, dog food, etc., have been put on hold until we receive further guidance, is the official word. So essentially, the dogs, their food, their kenneling, their maintenance, if you will, their health care, it's all put on hold.
How do you put vet care on hold? How do you put food orders for these bomb-sniffing dogs on hold? How is that possible?
Well, you get a bunch of 18 to 26-year-olds to come in and just yank your funding. When you're Elon Musk, that's how you do it. It's pretty crazy. And on that same day, the White House on the X platform posted Happy Canine Veterans Day to all of our heroic working dogs, including Conan, who fearlessly participated in the military operation that ended ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in 2019.
You said that really well.
No, I kind of fumbled it, actually, but thank you for saying that.
It sounded right. I don't know.
All right, thank you. Anyway, it's not clear if the funding's been restored. This isn't one of those things like, oh, it was a mistake. We're going to restore the funding. It's not clear that that funding will be restored. So, boy, air travel is really getting to be a real roll of the dice as they increasingly, there he is. We're showing a picture, if those who are listening, of Trump in the Oval Office with Conan, who's the dog who was referenced in the post on X, and who is also the, coincidentally, dog being starved now because there is no money for the food for any of these TSA dogs.
Sorry, Conan, you won't be eating tonight.
Yeah, not come to the Thompson household. We have plenty of food left over from the cats. All right, smash the like button like a boss, if you would.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Good show. We've done a lot today. I love the conversation with David Pakman. We'll break that out as a separate video as well, and you'll have a chance to buy his book, Kim's News, as we continue. And then there's more. I know, it's incredible. We're a live show. We're going to keep it going. Tony, everything good on your end? I feel very strong.
Sure,
I feel very able. I feel just good enough.
It's good enough, Mark.
I need you to...
Come on.
There's a lot of it's just good enough on this show. I wish we could change that. I'd like a little more of a... Anyway, all right. We continue. Kim's News next.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. What's in the cup there, Mark? What you got? What's going on?
I'm going, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm going with my Ocotillo espresso.
That coffee down.
No, I will not put this down. It is so good.
Oh my.
I love my coffee. And
I love my
and
tea.
it's in my I don't know what is that a chit mug? Yeah, my chit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
My favorite one.
Yeah, that's it.
Chit.
Right. Anyway, comes getmarkmerch.com is where I get the mug, but CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, Mark T at checkout for 10% off the best coffee in the world.
Democratic Senator Adam Schiff says he is not intimidated by a President Trump post about the January 6th committee. Trump posted on Truth Social today that he was declaring former President Biden's pardons for member of the January 6th House Select Committee void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by AutoPen. This is what the Trump is saying. He further alleges that Mr. Biden not only did not sign the pardons, but that he didn't even know about them. Trump is also warning the members of the committee they're now subject to investigation at the highest level, he said. Schiff posted on X, members of the January 6th committee are all proud of our work, and your threats will not intimidate us.
The highest level is my favorite level, by the way. Cheers, everybody.
Level?
Yeah.
I mean, forget the lowest level. That's unnecessary. The White House will have a showdown with a federal judge this afternoon. It centers around the allegations that the Trump administration defied a judge's order that blocked the deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members under the Alien Enemies Act. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a statement the Trump administration did not refuse to comply with the court order because the Venezuelans deported were no longer in U.S. territory.
I like that Kim calls her Leave It all the time. Her name is Levitt.
I'd rather leave it.
No, you like to deliberately blow it. Yeah, just
Leave
the same way that Trump, calls him Shifty Schiff or whatever. That's your like.
It's really not my intention.
It's not.
No. It looks like Leave It. Leave
Yeah, it does,
it.
but it is Levitt.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Elon Musk says,
Girl, you
leaving
just woo.
I'm leaving that in the past.
All right.
Elon Musk says magic money computers are giving away taxpayer funds in the billions. While appearing on the podcast Verdict with Ted Cruz, the tech billionaire says the Department of Government Efficiency has uncovered 80% waste and 20% fraud. Wow, that's 100%. Musk says there are billions being paid to nonprofits that clearly have a political agenda.
It was obviously a mistake, and in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, that's
He
Ted
also
Cruz.
claims there are government contracts still being paid out to the private sector that were actually canceled years ago.
Yeah, I don't believe that for
Hey,
sure.
look, we don't have school. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, I don't. I think Musk falls into a Trumpian category when it comes to the veracity of his statements. Namely, he's a liar. He's a big, big liar. And when you look at the transparency of, he says, it's all transparent. You can see it. Only it's not. And the figures are completely made up, completely concocted.
Next story. Federal authorities say there's this doctor living in Rhode Island who was deported to Lebanon and had what are described as sympathetic photos of Iran's supreme leader and the head of the terrorist group Hezbollah on her phone. Dr. Rasha Alaway was initially detained Thursday when she arrived at Logan International Airport in Boston after a 2-week visit with her family in Lebanon. A federal court hearing on her status, scheduled for this morning, was continued until next week to give her attorney additional time to prepare. She is a doctor. I believe she is an organ transplant doctor. She's internationally known.
Everything I've read about her, she's brilliant. And I have no doubt that this is completely concocted again. I mean, this is the thing. Most of what they're going to say out of this administration is total and complete BS. And so it is with her. But the problem is there's really a human cost to all of this BS. And here it is.
Well, and was here legally, and she's a legal resident of the United States. So,
I don't even get, how they're undermining science, they're undermining medicine. I see such an aggressive move on the part of these guys to take out, this policy on those who are making substantial contributions to American life. I see this as incredibly damaging all the time. It's like all damage all the time.
So now if they don't like what you have on your phone, they can just say, sorry, you can't come back into America?
Well, I'll go a step further. I don't necessarily even believe that she had that on her phone. But, maybe she did. But, I don't think that there's anything, nothing in her world, it would seem, her professional world would suggest some sort of allegiance to, what was it, to the Ayatollah or something? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had
sympathetic photos.
What was it?
Sympathetic photos to the supreme leader of the head of the terrorist group Hezbollah.
I don't believe it. Yeah. I just don't believe it. But look, I remember my favorite professor in college was a guy named Aronovich, okay? And he was brilliant. And more than being brilliant, because pretty much all the professors were brilliant, he communicated so well. I loved going to his class. It was super challenging and super interesting. Mm-hmm. And so I was really, I signed up for his classes wherever I could every year of college. And I learned one day, it might have been 2.5 years into my college run, well, Mr. Aronovich, Professor Aronovich is a Marxist. Did you know that? And I said, no, I didn't, because there's nothing he's ever said that has been at all Marxist. And B, I don't care if he's Marxist. He's a great professor. He's a philosophy professor. So he's discussing like super heavy, complicated, interesting things, and he's able to communicate them. And, the Marxism thing, if it's even true, I don't even know if it's true, is not really relevant to my academic experience. That's the way I feel about this person that they have, they've deported and they've taken an aggressive stand toward. Yeah. She's making tremendous contributions to this society. I guess she's an organ specialist, kidney specialist, something along these lines. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that any part of her work is informed by some allegiance to Hamas or something. Again, I don't believe that it's true, maybe, because a lot of what you guys say isn't really true. And B, does it show up in her work at all? I don't know. I'd like to see some evidence of that. It's just a sad state that we find ourselves in.
The White House says a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia is as close to being done as it's ever been. I thought it was going to be done in 24 hours with one phone call. All right. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said talks are on the 10th yard line of peace. This as President Trump is set to hold a phone call with Russian President Putin, Vladimir Putin, on Tuesday. Sunday, Trump said discussions would center on land and on power plants as well. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer postponing his book tour after a backlash within his own party. This after the New York lawmaker voted to advance a House Republican-led funding package. A spokesperson for his tour said it would be rescheduled over some security concerns. He was scheduled to visit Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City to promote his new book called Anti-Semitism in America, A Warning.
Wow, it's sad and it's complicated. I mean, this thing with Schumer, it's complicated, but I feel like all the complexities and nuance are pretty much out of American society. So political society. So we gave you the argument for Schumer and what he did in the first hour. And I think David Pakman did a kind of explanation and addressed the complexity of what Schumer did, how he might have done the same thing, but try to extract some concession. The frustration is you didn't get anything for your vote. That was what David Pakman was saying. And I think that, unfortunately, the anger and the frustration with the predicament that many on the left find themselves in, I think that's dictating this kind of thing. And all of a sudden, this guy has to worry about, going out on a book tour.
A Democratic senator is ditching his Tesla as he participates in a back and forth with CEO Elon Musk. Arizona lawmaker Mark Kelly posted a video on X showing off his new car. It's a Chevy Tahoe SUV. This 2 days after he said he was looking for a new car since his Tesla was, quote, built and designed by Musk. Kelly also criticized Musk last week on X for his efforts with the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Musk called Kelly a traitor for visiting Ukraine earlier this month. So they've been having a tit for tat for the last couple of weeks.
Well, I mean, Kelly really is a hero. He's a remarkable guy who's made great contributions to this country. And so far, I don't see that from Musk. I mean, I understand he's built this electric car company from what it was, but yeah, I don't, it's, if you were judging this in terms of, heroism and contributions, obviously you give it to Mark Kelly, but man, the smack talking back and forth is crazy. And Musk, of course, did start it.
Conor McGregor is visiting President Trump this St. Patrick's Day. The UFC star appeared at the White House this morning, took aim at the Irish government. He's blaming illegal immigration for Ireland potentially losing its Irishness. He also praised Trump and his work ethic, saying he considers Ireland and the United States to be siblings. Meanwhile, Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin said the fighter's remarks don't reflect the spirit of St. Patrick's Day or the views of the people of Ireland. Martin met with Trump last week. Speaking of St. Patrick's Day, how are they celebrating at the White House, you might wonder? Well, they're turning the North Lawn fountain green, Mark. That's what they're doing. Look at that.
Oh, isn't that sweet? That's great.
As they talk about Irish immigrants and immigrants to Ireland. The fountain could be seen with its bright emerald green water today. The tradition started in 2009 by the Obamas. Then First Lady Michelle Obama was inspired by her home city of Chicago, which dyes the Chicago River green every year. And then Trump carried on that tradition during his first term. It looks like it continues now. The County of Los Angeles is planning to consolidate its homeless service programs after a series of audits. 2 recent audits show an apparent lack of proper accounting and accountability at the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, governed by both the county and the city. County supervisors say it's time to bring most homeless services in-house.
It absolutely is, and it's a scandal that hundreds of millions of dollars is poured into this problem, and it is unaccounted for. It is the homeless industrial complex. It exists in California. It also exists elsewhere, but in California, I know a little something about it, and it is truly obscene that taxpayer money goes in to the amount that it does. And there's just a new measure, so we'll be paying, I think, a penny a piece in sales tax to fund various homeless solutions. But the solutions we don't see, there isn't transparency, and I'm glad that the supervisors have stepped in and said, no, this is in LA, this is happening. They said, this isn't going to go on anymore. We're gonna step in, and there's going to be some kind of merge of supervision on the supervisor level and also a legacy crew from the group that is dedicated to it now. But it is an absolute outrage. Taxpayers should be outraged by it.
Same thing happened in San Francisco, by the way. No accountability. Couldn't tell you where that money went.
Yeah, and it's, and those who are unhoused, and I get it. I always say, we're all 2 personal emergencies away from living in our car. I always feel that. And my heart breaks for many who are homeless, but I cannot have these tent cities on the streets of America. It cannot happen. I cannot run a business if people are crapping in front of it, urinating in front of it. It's absolutely unacceptable. And I want it all gone. And this money, there's plenty of it, should be poured into strategies that make that happen. Nobody wants this anymore. We have kids, we have lives, and these threats, this vile mess that exists block to block has to stop.
A measles outbreak in West Texas has led to a spike in Google searches that ask if vitamin A helps. Doctors have been getting a lot of questions about the supplement as well. Dr. Michael Chang, a pediatric infectious disease specialist with the University of Texas Health System, says there are 0 studies that show it can prevent an infection. And he says he's telling parents if they want to protect their kids from the measles, the vaccine would be the only way. The focus on vitamin A is due to comments from Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He said it's being used to treat patients. No, not.
This is just, it's horrifying. It's scary. Yeah. If you have a vitamin A deficiency, that may make you more vulnerable to measles, is what the doctor said. The doctor is coming in, by the way, on Wednesday, I believe, right? Yeah. And he made that point. We'll make it again. We'll revisit things. But this is how it gets out there. Misinformation that, could affect people's lives. You can't vitamin A supplement your way out of measles. Let's just put it that way.
The scary part is what happens when you Google that. I don't even want to know. I haven't even tried that. But the misinformation that could pop up from a Google search is almost even worse than just asking the question.
Yeah.
San Francisco's LGBTQ community is in search of funding for its Pride celebrations now after several sponsors have pulled out. The San Francisco Chronicle reporting the list of former sponsors includes Comcast, Anheuser-Busch, alcoholic beverage company Diageo, and La Crema, a wine company owned by Jackson Family Wines. Suzanne Ford is the executive director of San Francisco Pride. She says she believes businesses are hedging their bets with the current tonal change across the country. Just last week, the San Francisco Pride organization ended its relationship with Meta after it eliminated its diversity, equity, inclusion policies. Ford says the former sponsors accounted for about 1/3 of Pride's $1.2 million fundraising goal. Guess what? We don't get to be 21 forever, apparently, because Forever 21 is going out of business.
Oh, no.
I know. It's a shocker to me, too. Yeah. The clothing store company announced it filed for bankruptcy Sunday for the second time in 6 years. The retailer said it will now conduct liquidation sales as it begins an orderly wind down of business. Forever 21's chief financial officer said the company was unable to find a sustainable path forward as it faced competition from foreign fast fashion companies.
Oh, I see. Foreign competition.
Yeah. Wow. Lastly, Elon Musk says SpaceX's Starship will go to Mars at the end of 2026. So now you see what the real goal is. Aboard this, forget homelessness, people sleeping on the streets. We're going to Mars. That's it. Aboard the ship will be Optimus, Tesla's humanoid robot. Along with the Mars announcement, the billionaire said that if those landings go well, the human landings on Mars may start as soon as 2029. Although he said 2031 is more likely.
Let me tell you something. It's all crap. This is an absolute steal. It is a chance for Musk to soak the American taxpayer for more. You will not have manned missions to Mars in any kind of timely fashion. Not to mention, once you get to Mars, the radiation alone has to be so effectively handled. I'd have to bring Tony in for full time 24/7 to handle just the radiation part. And it is, to call it impractical is to state it in the extreme. It is a boondoggle. It is a fraud. Thank you. Silicon Valley Blocks has it. Elon Musk is a fraud. The mission to Mars, the making Mars habitable, making Mars a little colony, forget it. It's total crap. It is an absolute money grab. If you really wanted to do that, you should go to the moon. The moon is far more workable from that standpoint. Mars is the stuff of sci-fi. I get it. That's why. Wouldn't it be great to be able to, land on Mars and discover Martians and, there was water there once and all the rest. So there is a mock-up of what it would look like with the
Cybertruck and the Optimus Prime.
Optimus robot and the Cybertruck. But the Mars thing is an absolute money grab. You will not have people going to Mars. Full stop.
Amy says, no, go and put him aboard. That's good. Here, howdy. This report, again, sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Time for another little sippy sip. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com with the finest coffees, the finest teas. Please go to the website, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. If you see something you like, when you get to the checkout box that says enter your code here, our code is MARKT, all together, MARKT, gets you 10% off of your total. It's exclusive from the Mark Thompson Show. You won't be sorry. Super, super good.
Oh, you're going to love it. You're going to love it like we do.
Yeah.
Something special. Yes. Good. Kim?
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Yes, you're Kim McAllister.
Yes, and this is the Mark Thompson Show.
I love it. I'm going to get an update on Mark's Madness in just a moment, which is coming up with
the Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels good. When they raided Mar-a-Lago, God didn't like that.
Don't talk to me that way.
Yes. Those of you who have been with us before know that annually during March Madness, we do Mark's Madness. Mark's Madness, we play off against each other audio clips on the show. We call them drops because they drop in. That's just sort of an industry term. And the commissioner of Mark's Madness, who will be handling the brackets and handling the play-in drops. He joins us now. It's Albert, everybody. Yes. Commish, tell everyone the layout for Mark's Madness. When does it start? What happens today? Where can they find it? Everything, please.
Right now is the play-in. So today we have two drops. I'm not sure if you're prepared to play these drops, Mark, but we do.
Tell me what they are again, Commish.
We have Trump Concepts and Trump Dogs as our drops.
Okay,
today.
Let me just, I'll get those for you.
But those are the last two entries. So the winner of that drop will join the official tournament, which will begin on Wednesday. So I think around 5 p.m. is when I'm going to stop the play-in vote, and then I'm going to lock in the brackets. So around 5 p.m. today, you will be able to fill out your brackets, which I could run through at the end of the show right now.
Now, so today, let me just get this straight. There is a play-in that's going to go on in the there it is, Trump Concepts and Trump Dogs.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
Do you hear that when I play it? No?
Yes.
You do, okay. So that's one of them, Concepts. And
they're eating the dogs.
Okay, so it's going to be two drops that are, these are play-ins. So this is to determine which one of these will make it into Mark's Madness as a drop. It'll either be...
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
That's Trump concepts, or it's...
They're eating the dogs.
Trump dogs. So it'll be one of those that will make it, and you will vote for what moves out of the next round, Trump concepts or Trump dogs. They're not all Trump drops. In fact, most of them are not Trump drops, but this particular, we like to play these guys off against each other. When it's Trump, we play the Trump drops off against each other. And now, commish. So that voting continues where it says posts on our channel, right? So you'll go to our channel, and if you're a subscriber, you'll go to posts and you can vote for one or the other. Now, tell me about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow you'll have the official bracket, and you'll be able to fill it out, and it'll be on this website. I'll have the website included in this, and all the rest of the breakout videos will have it for this month. But basically, you just there's a whole bunch of lists of drops here, and we have a video that's currently up, which I could share here. This is our video. We recorded all the drops, and you could just scroll here at the bottom to listen to all the drops.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. So yeah, you can.
So if you're not too sure about filling out your bracket, and you're not too sure about what you're clicking on, you'll see like Saudi Cash. I have no idea what Saudi Cash is. You could refer back to the video.
Yeah, Saudi Cash is in the tournament. I love it. It hasn't ever been in the tournament before. That's the one where Trump says Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Yes. Of course, I just dropped one on you, and you're not ready for it.
I am looking for it.
But if you've joined this tournament in years past, I just renewed one for this year, so you will be able to fill it out and without having to rejoin the league. So if you've participated in years past, just go back to officepoolstop.com, and you could just log in, and it'll automatically be in your bracket tab. If you are new to this, you will just set up an account on this website. Again, we'll have the link at the bottom of the video. And there's a password there that says Iron Rod, all lowercase. You click on the league, you put in the password, and then you're in. So,
and I think that if you go to your, by the way, it's
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Yeah, there it is. If you go to your settings when you get in, you may want to click on, don't share the history, whatever it may be. So make sure you do that if you want. I mean, some people say that, I had never done that, so I don't know. But you can, there are
like hide
those,
your email.
Hide your email, exactly. Yeah.
Stuff you don't want to share, but.
Yeah. Albert, is Mark paying you extra for being a commissioner? Oh, that's a really clever idea.
This is called me setting the bar low throughout the year and me raising it a little bit so Mark could keep me around.
It is true. I love it.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
You could always get that job from the Saudis. They pay cash, from what I understand. So this is kind of a fun little thing that we do. Where can we find the bracket? You can find it. There'll be a click through underneath. You're saying this video, Albert?
And all the rest of the breakout videos throughout this month will have the league info. So even if you're not playing, you could just watch along and see how it's going to shake out.
Yeah. So again, you'll find the link to the brackets under this video and other breakout videos. We're going to add it to each one, so you can find your way.
I will
to
also
Mark's
put
Madness.
it into the comment section right now.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, and I guess that's it. I mean, I will say I got my hair darkened, especially for the start of Mark's Madness, everybody, and I hope I'm, yes, thank you very much. Yeah. It'll actually assume a more human color, but it takes like a week for the really heavy dark to wash out, but that's how it works. Very, very excited, Albert, and it's super exciting that you would join us here. So voting on the drops that are up against each other, these two today, that will continue in the posts section of our channel until midnight tonight. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So up until midnight tonight, you could vote. Also, if you are subscribed to the show, that this poll will automatically be in your subscription box. So if you just click on your subscriptions tab and you have the rest of Mark's videos and all your other subscriptions, the poll will also be there. So you could find it there as well. But if not, just go to the Mark Thompson Show page under posts and vote there.
So again, it'll either be...
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
Or it will be...
They're eating the dogs.
So one of those will move on to play in the big tournament, March Madness. The official start of March Madness is Wednesday, and we'll get things going then. But you'll get your bracket with the winner here of those two being the final to have to be added to the bracket, and then you'll pick winners. You'll have all day Tuesday to do that up until showtime, really, on Wednesday, I think. And then we get it on. I love it. Albert, thank you, as has been said by a great American.
Albert, thank you.
Yes, and I look forward to it. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun, unpredictable. It's going to be. It feels fresh already, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, a lot of new drops this year, and it's just the antidote we need, the distraction we need for the situation in America. So thank you, Albert. Everybody, thank you, Albert. The commish.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I would love to hang out, and I am going to hang out for a minute or two because I wanted to. Louise says we should send the Statue of Liberty back to France and replace it with a giant golden Trump statue that appears in the Trump Gaza video. Hashtag New America. I love that idea. Yeah.
Well, we definitely have to take the poem down.
Yeah. Yeah, the poem no longer, the words inscribed no longer apply. Yeah.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah. It's just good enough equals Albert's life philosophy. Well, at least he admits it, you know. My 2 cents from Scott Rittenberg with a $5.02 super chat. I kind of like the live, non-slickness, unscripted nature of the Mark Thompson Show. There's good stuff there, y'all. Oh, good. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it because it's going to continue. We have no choice. When I turn to Tony and I go, Tony, is there nothing we can do? I mean, that's kind of like you have to just have the conversation out loud. Sandy says, well, he wants his face on Mount Rushmore. Why not a statue to replace the Statue of Liberty? Sarcasm, yeah. Look, there it is. Wouldn't you love to see that in New York Harbor? Come on.
No.
You patriots.
Look at I didn't notice the little Twitter birds down on the sword.
I love it.
Sword? Is that supposed to be a sword? Or it's not a sword. It's a saw, like chainsaw.
Oh.
Yeah, it's from Warhammer. I forget what it was, a protest parade, but they made him the God Emperor from Warhammer. So
okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, man. It's a
Seriously, what the?
All right. Meantime, that's going to give me the night terrors. Just, ain't it true, Heather says. Gregory says, want to make some sense of Trump moves in office? Think about parts of the words on the Georgia Guidestones. You've stumped me. Do you know what he's talking about, Kim?
No. What, Georgia Guidestones?
Yeah. Can you, yeah.
Google it.
Yeah. I've been down to...
a granite monument that stood in Elbert County, Georgia from 1980 to 2022.
Oh.
It was made from 6 granite slabs, and it was called the American Stonehenge.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about it. I've been to Stone Mountain in Georgia, outside of Atlanta. Google Stone Mountain, and you'll see what that is.
Google it.
Yeah. But I didn't know about the Georgia Guidestones. Interesting.
Yeah.
It must have some kind of...
the principles are about
inscription.
being in perpetual balance with nature,
No?
guide reproduction wisely, improve fitness and diversity, unite humanity with a living new language, rule passion, faith, tradition, all things with tempered reason, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. It goes on.
Yeah. And then after lunch, we'll get to some other stuff. Right?
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Georgia Guidestones, good knowledge.
Yeah, very, very good knowledge. Bravo. Yeah. I'd like to personally discuss the recent cuts to dog food and care with the president. Bitingly yours, Commander Biden. That's right. Oh, they had that dog in the White House. The Scout, was it? Or
Yeah.
yeah, really,
It wasn't happy there. It didn't do well.
For St. Patty's Day, what do you call a cubic zirconia in Ireland? Asks Rich. a shamrock. Very, very good. That's
well done.
That's the kind of sophistication people come to this show for. And Silicon Valley Block says we are all Marxists here. Yes, I get it. I get it. We're Marxists. I
Very
love it.
cute. Very
Yes,
creative.
it is, and I'm impressed by everything that we've had from the crowd today. Tomorrow, the great David K. Johnston joins us. And we'll talk to David about the courts. We'll talk to David about, the ways in which Elon Musk and Donald Trump seem committed to following their agenda regardless of what the courts say. And the realities concerning his, that is to say, Trump's decision to throw out the Biden pardons. Again, I don't see a lot of legal underpinning for that, but one never knows. Anyway, David joins us tomorrow. Kim does the After Party Live over on the After Party Live channel. And Mark's Madness, the bracket drops tomorrow, so get on it.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Tony, thank you. Kim, thank you.
All the time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.